your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook, and you are here with us at the Campus for All Animals, the Houston SPCA. As always, we've got some great information for you to help keep your pets healthy and happy. Today, our topic of conversation is going to be about mange. What is mange and how can it affect you and your pets? So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat and hopefully we can help you answer all of your questions about mange. In the meantime, I would love to introduce you to our pet of the week. This week we have Fiona with us. Fiona is a wonderful, adorable cat. She is about 3 years old. She's spayed and she's looking for her new family to go home with. So we encourage you to come on out and visit with Fiona. She had a home before and unfortunately her previous owner passed away. And so Fiona is used to being in a home. She would make someone a wonderful family pet. She loves affection. She loves to get those pets, and she loves to chirp. Don't we love the cats when they're seeing things in their environment and they're chirping and chattering? Fiona loves to do that. So please come on down and visit with her and all of the animals that we have in our adoption center every day from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. No appointment necessary. We're happy to help you find the new member of your family. So let's talk a little bit about mange, which is a general term for skin conditions that can happen in dogs and cats. So let's just get started. What questions do you have about mange?
All right, what is mange and are there different types?
Great question to start with. So yes, mange is a very general term that refers to a skin condition where there are tiny microscopic mites or bugs, little mites that live in the fur and the skin of dogs and cats and even other animals like chickens and pigs, for example. In general, there are multiple different types of mange depending on the species because there are some types of mange that only affect certain species. But we'll focus on dogs and cats today. So when we're talking about dogs and cats, there are two types of mange. One of them is called demodex or demodectic mange. The other is called scabies or sarcoptic mange. And there are some differences in these two, demodectic mange and sarcoptic mange. We will start with demodectic mange. Demodectic mange is a type of mange or mite that lives in the skin that is non-contagious. So that's the most important thing, is that Demodex is not contagious. It's not contagious to people, so you cannot get Demodex from your pet, or you can't give your pet Demodex, and it's not contagious to each other. Demodex mites are typically found in low numbers on the skin. The reason that they become a problem is because some puppies have very poor immune systems. And because of that, these mites tend to be opportunistic and they tend to grow out of control. And as they grow and live in the skin, they cause hair loss, crusting, scaling, and they cause the skin to become very red and inflamed. And we call that red and inflamed skin red mange. So if you've ever heard of the term red mange, that is demodectic mange, the non-contagious type of mange that you might see. Animals with demodectic mange are sometimes itchy and sometimes not. They can actually be fairly normal and not appear to be very itchy at all. The second type of mange is sarcoptic mange. So sarcoptic mange is contagious. So sarcoptic mange is the type of mange that can be transmitted between pets and even to people. So it is possible for you to get sarcoptic mange from your pet. So it's something to be aware of. Now, sarcoptic mange does also tend to be very itchy. So you might notice that it does cause crusting of the skin, hair loss, scaliness of the skin. But the difference in sarcoptic mange and demodectic mange is sarcoptic mange is typically itchy and contagious. So in general, those are the two main types of mange, but again, there are other types that affect other species, and so they have their own similar characteristics as well.
And can they be contagious to cats as well, or just to other dogs?
That's a great question. So cats can also get demodectic mange, and cats can also get sarcoptic mange, and same thing. So sarcoptic mange is contagious. Now, There is a different type of sarcoptic mange mite that affects cats versus the one that affects dogs. It's still beneficial to keep an animal that has sarcoptic mange separate from any other animals because it is a contagious type of mite.
And how is it contagious? Like through the fur, through the air, or if we do have a pet that's recovering from the scabies contagious one, how do we keep the other ones from getting affected, or other humans?
Absolutely, it's from direct contact. So if you have a pet that has sarcoptic mange and they come into direct contact with another pet, maybe they're sleeping together or rubbing on each other, grooming each other, those mites absolutely can be transferred between one pet or another. Sarcoptic mange mites live more superficial in the skin and the fur than Demodex mites. Demodex mites live very, very deep in the skin at the base of the hair follicles. So they're living a little bit deeper, whereas sarcoptic mange mites live more superficially, and so they can be spread just by casual contact.
And so they both kind of have hair loss and symptoms. Any other symptoms that make them different, or that's kind of like the main difference?
Great question. So both of them cause hair loss and crusty, scaling skin, like thick, crusting, scaling skin. And again, demodectic mange tends to cause a little bit more inflammation in the skin, and so sometimes the skin can appear red and inflamed, which is where it gets the term red mange. And Sarcoptes does tend to be a little bit more itchy. Sarcoptes is known for causing lesions, particularly around the ear margins, so on the borders of the ears and the elbows and the ventrum, the ventral surface of the pet. Those are very common places for sarcoptic mange. So if the margins of the ears are very crusty, the elbows are very crusty, or the lesions tend to be on the ventrum of the pet, those are some signs that it might be sarcoptic mange. Whereas Demodex can really be anywhere. And typically with Demodex, at the beginning, the skin doesn't look too bad. Sometimes it's just a clear patch of hair loss, and it may not be crusting or scaling at all. It just causes patchy hair loss really anywhere.
And so how is it diagnosed in the vet office?
Yes, so how do we diagnose mange? Well, after a while, veterinarians are good enough to sometimes diagnose it just by looking. But the best way to diagnose it and get a definitive diagnosis is to do what's called a skin scraping. So a skin scraping is where the veterinarian or the veterinary technician will take a scalpel blade and some mineral oil. And what we do is we take the scalpel blade and we just gently graze the surface of the skin until we get some of the skin cells and fur off. We put that sample on a slide and we look at that slide under a microscope, and we can actually visualize the microscopic mites or bugs that are crawling amongst the hair and the skin cells. And so it generally does not require any sedation to do this test. It causes a little bit of discomfort. It feels like scratching the skin pretty firmly. And so we get that sample with a scalpel blade. We look at that sample under the microscope, and we can get a diagnosis within minutes.
So once it's confirmed, what are the treatment options? Is it obviously it depends on the type of scabies or the mite?
Absolutely. So the treatment options are many, actually, and that's good. What that means is we have lots of different options to treat this type of skin condition. Some of those options are with a topical liquid, where we can put a topical liquid on your pet. Other options include like a one-time pill that we can just give the pill, and then it just takes time for the skin to rejuvenate and to heal. And then there's also medicated baths or dips that we can use. So we have lots of options at our disposal: medicated baths and dips, topical liquids, or oral medication. And it's going to depend, again, on the type of mange and what might be most appropriate for your pet.
Does it ever go away on its own, or what happens if it's left untreated?
Yes, both types of mange need to be treated and are not likely to go away on their own. And if we leave them untreated, the skin can become sometimes so crusted, so scaly, and the hair loss can become so generalized that it can lead to secondary infections like bacterial infections of the skin and extreme discomfort. And in some cases, particularly with demodectic mange, the pet can start to get sores on the skin that begin to bleed. And so it can be a painful, uncomfortable condition if it isn't treated. So definitely want to treat this.
I'm sure we've all heard that myth that motor oil can treat, mange in dogs. Is there any truth to that, or what are the dangers to that?
Right. We do not recommend using any home remedies to treat mange. So please don't use things like, excuse me, motor oil or any other topical product that's not prescribed by your veterinarian to treat mange.
Okay, so there's nothing we can do at home. We've heard honey and others, some that they're a little bit safer than motor oil, but just best to go to the vet.
It's best to go to the vet because a lot of the home remedies are not tested and are not proven, and we want to make sure that we treat these conditions as soon as possible.
All right, so if treated, how long does it take for the mange and the hair loss to come back?
So the good news is that the treatment is pretty easy and straightforward. The bad news is that it can take several weeks for all of the hair to grow back and for your pet to be completely normal. For demodectic mange, it can take about 3 months. So about 3 months for the lesions of hair loss and cresting and scaling to go away. But again, during this time, it really is just time. And generally the pets are very comfortable during this time. For sarcoptic mange, same thing. It may take about 6 weeks for the skin to rejuvenate, for healthy skin and fur to grow, and for your pet to be normal and healthy.
And is there anything we can do to prevent our pets from being in contact and obviously contracting the mites?
Right. If you know that there is a pet, maybe in the neighborhood, a stray dog, a stray cat, and maybe they look like they have a skin condition, the best thing that you can do is just keep your pet away from any stray animals or animals that look like they have pre-existing skin conditions. But in general, there's nothing that you can do to prevent it. Again, sarcoptic mange is transmitted through casual contact. And so oftentimes you may be aware if your pet is coming into contact with another animal that has what looks like a skin disease. But in general, there's nothing to do to prevent it. Keep your pet healthy by providing proper nutrition, taking your pet to the veterinarian at least once a year so that they can check for areas of hair loss and look for these things. And then just making sure your pet is healthy, otherwise keeping them current on vaccines and heartworm and flea and tick prevention, because some of the heartworm and flea and tick preventions will actually treat mange at the same time. So it's a good idea to just keep your pet on that monthly heartworm, flea and tick prevention, and you may be able to treat that mange while you're treating all of the other things.
And I'm sure we get lots of these type of pets in through our rescue. How can we help the pets in need?
Yes, mange is such a common condition, particularly for unhomed animals in our community, because these mites live in the community, in the environment. So we get them into our shelter very often. What these animals need most is time. And it's something that many people have to give. They need time, they need place just to recover while their skin heals. So one thing that you can do as a member of our extended family is to help us by fostering pets with mange. And what that means is you take a pet into your home, we provide the medication, and the pet just needs time to recover in your home, and they need lots of love to do that. So fostering can really help to save lives and to help these pets that have what looks like a pretty terrible condition, but can actually do well and heal relatively quickly.
Because again, there's a time period where the mites are gone, so they're no longer contagious, but they just need to get their hair growth.
That's exactly right. So if you're concerned about taking a pet into your home that might be contagious, typically once we start the treatment for sarcoptic mange, the mites begin to die, and they die pretty quickly once we start the treatment. What takes a long time is the hair regrowth and for the skin to appear normal again. That's actually what takes a long time. And so generally, once we get the first 1 or 2 treatments on board, most of the mites are dead, and the contagiousness of the disease has drastically reduced. And all we're doing is waiting for that hair to grow back and for their beautiful coat to come in.
All right, perfect. So again, if we want to foster, just go online, correct?
Yes, please. If you want to foster, please go online to houstonspca.org and look for ways that you can give to become a volunteer or a foster parent and help us to save more lives.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have for today.
That's wonderful. We appreciate your help. Thank you so much for joining us every Friday and learning more about your pets and how to keep them healthy and happy. We'd love to see you here in our adoption center every day from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. But again, if you're interested in becoming a part of our extended family and helping us to further our mission in saving lives, please visit HoustonSPCA.org. We'll see you next week.